afraid that we're headed for even harder times with the roiling of the stock market, and it looks like times are going to be challenging for years and decades to come. Our project, the Valley of the Giants, sounds very fanciful and fun, and it is. But the real idea behind it is using the power of art and storytelling to strengthen our communities and to strengthen our local economy. And so I think it's as much an investment as it is anything else. And so our presentation, my name is Maria Reidelbach. I'm working with Lisa Kellogg, who probably most of you know. She's a Rosendalian. I've been an accordion for 3 years now. I created a project on Kelders Farm that's an edible miniature golf course and a giant garden gnome. And it's been 5 years now since that's opened, and I was doing an assessment of it at the beginning of last year to review how well the business had gone. And one of the things that I realized was that the miniature golf course, which is, I love the miniature golf course, and it's beautiful, and it's educational. It has over 30 varieties of edible plants, and they're all annotated, and the whole idea is to turn children and other people onto what you eat. And it's been very successful for that, but it's kind of a labor of love. It pays for itself and not much more. But one of the elements that was very successful of the project at Kelders Farm is also the giant garden gnome, which has attracted a huge amount of business to the farm. It's put a face on the farm, and it's incredibly low maintenance, and it was pretty easy and inexpensive to build. And so I came up with this idea of creating more giants for other local enterprises, for communities and farms and businesses, because it seemed to me that here in the Rosendale Valley there are a bunch of really, really cool things going on, and really wonderful businesses and really cool farms and really great communities. But a lot of times the promotion for those farms and communities isn't as good as the things themselves. And artists are really good at creating visual promotions. And so that was something where I saw that we could step in and help. So this is a little 15-minute presentation about the project. We like to say that giants in the United States started with the Statue of Liberty, 1885. Here's the arm in Madison Square Park. It was being used to raise funds. We thought the French paid for it, but Americans helped pay for it too. You can go to the next slide. Just about the same time, whoops, wrong button.
Sorry, usually we're in more intimate space where Maria's doing this piece, so I'm not,
Our presentation might be a little shorter than we planned.
Sorry about this, gang. Just a second. All right. So, 1885, just about the time of the Statue of Liberty, in Coney Island, they built the Elephant Hotel. 31 rooms. It was enormous. It was very successful. And you can go to the next slide. On top was a viewing platform, 18 feet on a side. big enough for a dance floor. And it was made of wood, and it caught fire about 15 years after it opened. It was destroyed. But what lives on is Lucy, the Margate elephant, which was the prototype for the Elephant Hotel in Coney Island. This is in Margate, New Jersey. And Lucy has become a beloved local icon for Margate, New Jersey. She's been restored starting in the 1970s, and she's been made a landmark. And she's got a window in the eye. You can actually go inside her and look out the eye. You can go to the next slide. In Minnesota, well, people started, taking car trips in the 1930s. People could afford their own cars. And so some enterprising towns actually thought that they would get it together and create something for people to look at when they were on their car trips. And in Minnesota, inspired by their Paul Bunyan legends, they started creating roadside giants. The historian Carol Ann Marling has documented these giants. A lot of them still exist. Prairie chickens, weasels, giant fish. And these were created in the 1930s and 40s, and they're still, to this day, very special parts of small towns in Minnesota, and something that brings distinctiveness and joy to those towns. And next. Here in New York, we've got the Big Duck of Flanders. It's kind of the gateway to Long Island and the Hamptons, and it, again, built in the 1930s, and also made a landmark, beloved, restored, kept up, and just, part of the community. Now we come to our own giant garden gnome at Kelders. We built him 5 years ago. He's made out of cement. He's built kind of like a straw bale house, very simply, hollow, but nice and heavy. I created him so that his hand could hold things, and we put flowers in his hand, and we dress him up for holidays. The 4-H thought he looked cold the first winter, and so they made him a gigantic scarf, and I put the big scarf on him every winter. He's, been featured lots of places. Let's see, you can go to the next slide. This is a common sight on the farm. People, coming, having their parties there, going for group portraits, cars screeching to a halt, people clamoring over the bank to pose by him. He's been featured in lots of books. And the thing is that, we don't have a big advertising budget at Kelders. But this gnome really gives us a potency and a sort of a brand, if you will, that goes way beyond, the fact that he's a 13.5-foot tall lump of concrete. If you go to the next slide, this is just a small sampling of the media coverage that we've gotten over the last 5 years. None of this is paid for advertising. This is all people who wanted to write about the project and the gnome, and we've been covered both in all the local papers, but also the New York Times. The Guinness Book of World Records featured photographs twice, which is really an accomplishment because there are so many world records these days that not everybody's listed anymore. Zippy the Pinhead, the comic strip, was even featured him. So, and if you go on the internet and do a search on Google, what happens is if you look for world's largest garden gnome, you get 29,400 hits. If you search for Noam Chomsky, his nickname, you get 4,800 hits. If you search for giant garden gnome, you get 161,000. Not hits, I'm sorry, pages found. By contrast, if you search for, say, Rondout Valley Business Association, you only get 3,500. If you search even for Rondout Valley, you only get 130,700. So we've been around 5 years, and there are more pages featuring our gnome than the whole Rondout Valley, which is ridiculous. but it just kind of shows you the kind of attention these things inspire. And in fact, recently this spring, there was a symposium at the Library of Congress called Marvels of the Roadside and Main Street America, and a postcard of our gnome was featured at that symposium and was also made part of the collection of the Library of Congress, and we're really proud of that. We think it really shows that a roadside giant is not just kind of kitschy schlock, but it's really part of Americana. It's an American tradition. So what happened was we just started thinking that if the gnome can draw this much attention in 5 years for Kelders, what would happen if we would create more giants, and if we based them on the lore and the history and the characters that we here in the Rosendale Valley are? What if we made them really meaningful? We created a gnome at Kelders because gnomes were found on the very first miniature golf course in 1927 on Lookout Mountain. It was invented by Frida Carter, and she decorated her miniature golf course with garden gnomes. And we thought, well, since our miniature golf course is on a farm, that a garden gnome would be perfect. But what if we create other giants that are just as meaningful for the spots that they inhabit? So the first thing I thought of were agriculturally inspired giants. So here's a nice maple leaf giant that could be for a nursery or a sugar bush, a sugar house. And you can go to the next one. Here are some more agriculturally inspired giants. The giant corn guy, grape guy for a winery or a vineyard, mushroom guys for a mushroom farm. And these are all just kind of sketches. They're little models that I made, and you can go to the next one. Just as ideas of things that could be done. There's a pickle guy. We're hoping to still do a pickle dude for Rosendale. Blueberry girl, apple-headed guy, and a spud boy for a potato farm. You can go ahead to the next one. So now we come to Rosendale. Last year, I found out that Bill Brooks really wanted to have a cement miner to honor the cement miners of Rosendale. And I started talking to Bill, we put our heads together. I did a little bit of research, and I found out that these cement miners were so underappreciated in their time that there were hardly even any photographs of them. This one hit really close to home because my brother was a coal miner. And so I really, felt very powerfully about this particular subject. I come from Western Pennsylvania. It was an area a lot like this, or is an area a lot like this. Beautiful, mountainous, so it's kind of an interesting combination. This is one photo that was from the collection of the D&H Canal Museum that had some really interesting features because it shows all the different workmen. It shows, I believe that the guys in the front in the bowler hats are the management, and you can even see some child laborers up behind them. What I did was I honed in on two of them that I thought were particularly interesting. A guy with a sledgehammer, which is apparently the kind of tool that they use. They use a sledgehammer and chisel to crack out the ore that they were mining. And then there's this kind of younger guy on the left. So these are the two guys I kind of honed in on for a model for a preliminary study, and you can go on. And then I found out that the cement barrels themselves had these really cool logos that I thought were pretty inspiring. And so I dug around for some of those, and I put them together into this study that you may have seen, but maybe not in color, of the cement miner with a stack of barrels behind him showing all the fabulous logos. And then down below is a plaque that would actually be made out of real Rosendale cement to show, just how beautiful and white and pearly it is. I have a sample of it that I got from the Edison Company, and it's just amazing stuff. It's too expensive to actually make the giant out of, but really would be beautiful for the plaque and perhaps to be used for commemorative plaques for people who donate money for the statue.
Is that Bill in the picture?
That is Bill in the picture. I made him stand there while I was photographing
It's
the,
just to
the
show
face.
a size.
Just to show scale.
That location is down by St. Peter's Bridge.
You can go to the next one, please.
Maria, the Maritime Center has all kinds of logos.
Fantastic.
From
Great.
the brick industry and I think also the cement industry, if you have a chance to go up there.
Terrific. So recently we met with the mayor and the board of Ellenville, Mayor Jeff Kaplan, and this was our preliminary study just to kind of get people jazzed in Ellenville about what might be possible. But we will be working through a process with them to determine what their giant might be. I just homed in on blueberries because of their blueberry festival. And again, you know, she's poised on a rock that looks like Shwangunk Rock and surrounded by low bush blueberries that would actually bear fruit and turn a beautiful red in the winter or in the fall. Next. This is a preliminary study for the Soyuzivka Ukrainian National Camp in Kherson, who found out what we were up to and asked us if we could meet with them and talk to them about creating a giant hutsol, which is a Ukrainian forest peasant. And they dress in beautiful, elaborate costumes that are embroidered. I mean, the thing is that there are so many wonderful resources in this valley that we could make these giants that would tell our stories, that would make our residents proud and more aware of our own history and meaning. You can go to the next one. I was looking at the Stone Ridge Library one day where I check out my books and realized that wouldn't it be great if we could replace those awful buttresses with giant bookends, and they would actually be holding up books, which would potentially even make them the largest bookends in the world. And so I proposed this to their board, and the board loved it, but they kind of have bigger fish to fry right now, so we don't know where this is going to go. One thing we discovered while doing research on this is Washington Irving, who was a local author and wrote, you know, wonderful stories like about the Headless Horseman and Rip Van Winkle. We found out that he said that he wrote his stories to clothe home scenes and places with imaginative and whimsical associations so seldom met with in our new country, but which live like charms and spells about the cities of the old world, binding the heart of the native inhabitant to his home. And that's sort of that's our reach with these giants. We want to create wonderful, charming, meaningful giants that will help local people understand why they love this area, but that also will attract other people to this area. You can go to the next one. So what happens is that once we get a few giants, then we'll be able to start to call our valley the Valley of the Giants. And it's a magnetic name, and if we can draw people from the outside, more people from the outside to visit us, we would create tours and guides and maps, and it would draw people all up and down 209 and 213, but also we can draw people off the beaten track as well. We can get them off the corridor and visiting smaller byways in towns. That's phase one, building the giants. It's even a bigger plan than just building the giants. Phase two would be promoting the giants with maps, tours, social networking, you know, all of the things that we have at our, that we have access to. And then phase three would be creating a line of locally made, locally sourced merchandise to further invigorate the local economy. You can go to the next slide. This is just a close-up of a map. The map is just, again, it's a study of what could be. And I'm just about done. You can go to the next one. So I guess just to wrap up, I'd like to say that, you know, right now we're facing, you know, huge challenges. You guys know it, you know, more than anybody. And the more of these meetings that I attend, the more in awe I am of the work that you guys face, you know, daily. But also I think that this area of the country has just amazing talent, amazing intelligence, a great work ethic, great initiative. But again, the promotion and marketing sometimes just isn't there. And that's where Lisa and I would like to be able to help out. We need to give people a reason to shop locally. People will spend more money for stuff than they need to if you give them a good reason to. People will go to Starbucks and spend $4 on a cup of coffee, or they'll buy that blue liquid and just flush it down their toilets. If we give them a good reason to, they will shop locally. I mean, Walmart is coming. We're going to have to strengthen our communities more. We need the power of the big brands, and we don't have the money to meet them squarely on with big marketing and big advertising. But what we do have is we have a great idea. And we've seen how this works at Kelders, and so our idea is to do it to help other local enterprises. So we're ready to start working, and we have been working on this for about a year now. We've put together our business plan. We've been explaining the idea to people. We've been applying for grants, and that's something that Lisa's going to explain to you next. Is we're applying for a Greenways grant that we're hoping will actually go quite a ways toward helping to pay for a giant. We've got the price to a really reasonable amount.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. I also just want to send this around. This is our mailing list if anybody is interested in getting on our mailing list and being able to get more information. And help yourself to the tattoo. So as far as, and I'm sure you may have some questions, but just to sort of let you know where we are with the Greenway piece of this. Maybe I should do it so make sure everybody can hear me. We actually met quite some time ago with Al Wagoner and actually, Patrick, you were there was a meeting with supervisors.
Carl Chipman and Brooke Pickering Cole.
Lenny Distel and the Ellenville Village wasn't able to make it. But essentially we're looking at all of the communities in the Rondout Valley, so Rosendale down through Ellenville. Unfortunately, Marbletown has an active Greenway grant, so they cannot apply for another one right now because they're in an open process. So Al suggested that a Greenway grant would be a great way for municipalities that were interested to band together and form a regional, essentially have a committee or a steering committee, similar to what they did with the scenic byways. So you have a regional committee, and then how it would work would be the grant would be to develop a plan for the valley having to do with the identities that would help flesh out for each community what the identity of the giants would be. Now, when we say we're applying for Greenway, it's not really us that's applying for it. It would be the communities. We're supporting the idea, and that would be a way to help fund a part of the process towards building a giant. So it would have to be the planning phase. So I don't know if I'm being clear. And the deadline is September 9th, so it's a bit of a crunch, but we actually presented a draft to Town Rochester. They're very interested. We have to come back with another draft. We're looking at having Ellenville hopefully be the lead. Unfortunately, their village meeting Monday night was canceled. They didn't have, something happened and they, so.
We have another meeting before September 9th, so we could take some action also if you need us to.
Okay, so what we're hoping is that we can get a draft, and there's a simple resolution saying that you'd like to be included. If we can do that on September, I think it's the 7th, if
7th is our meeting, yes.
if it's agreeable to be included for Rosendale to be included in that regional
And I think it's important probably at this point to say that this is not gonna be a financial burden on the town.
Right, that, if, for those of you who are familiar, Greenway is a matching grant, but you can match it with in-kind. So that's part of what we're teasing out, is, I mean, you can use town volunteers, so the volunteers that would be on a committee for this regional, all that volunteer time can be billed as matching.
Right. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Committee are both well aware of this now. And
Right, we did present,
Yep.
to the Economic Commission, and the Chamber also has been,
Yeah. And so
presented
any
to.
assistance we get from them is also in kind, can be used as in kind.
Okay, okay.
What's the proposed cost for the, just for the minor?
Maria, you should speak to that, you have a way that you talk about the cost, because it's not,
We've
Definite,
kind of,
specific
we've got an estimate that the Giants cost about $1,500 a foot.
Not foot, you know.
no snakes allowed.
Yeah. So, and the minor is a little more elaborate because it's got the cement barrels behind it. So it would depend on how tall he is, but we're thinking about 14, 15 feet, and so he would cost about $25,000 in the end.
But
And
that is not something that the Greenway would contribute to. They would contribute to
Oh,
the
I'm sorry,
plan.
I'm
Right,
making
to
where
the
this
plan,
is.
yes, to
They
the
would-
planning.
At the first phase, it would contribute to the planning, and then we could potentially they could be applied to again for the second phase, which would be the building.
And you didn't ask, the scenic byway, I mean, there is already an existing alliance. You didn't ask them to sponsor the grant? It seems like that might have been a good way to go.
When we met with Al, he was suggesting that we could restart the corridor commission, like the group, and he actually sent me the documents for that. So it was something that we talked about. We were a little, initially we thought we could apply to help build the Giants, so we had some misunderstanding that we were clarifying, and so we've been, it kind of has come up sort of fast. There's lots of different planning things, and we've been applying for a bunch of different grants as well. So that was talked about. I guess that would be the
other thing is the scenic byway is made up of some communities that are not really in the Rosendale Valley, including New Paltz
right.
and
the other side,
New Paltz and
Yeah.
Gardner and
Yeah.
so Shalom
Yeah. And also that group of people, when that was happening, when I looked at the list, a lot of, it was different people that were in office, so in terms of the town officials that were involved, a lot of it sort of changed. So it would sort of be initiating maybe a smaller group just coming out of just the valley, but it's a good suggestion. Yeah.
I have a question about placement. At Elders, yes, we have the Nelly. And you mentioned that cars stop, and I've noticed that there's a lot of kids around the Nelly. If you have it near a major highway, such as 213, I think it's a problem as far as the narrowness of the road and the danger of people's attention being distracted. Not to mention pulling in, you need enough room for parking, you need room so these kids don't run out on a very dangerous road. So I'm asking, are we considering the placement at the rec center or Willow Kiln Park where they're away from the road? Just where is this place?
It'll be sited someplace that it will be really safe for people to pull over and for children, absolutely. I mean, you certainly wouldn't want to cause any kind of a traffic hazard or any kind of a danger for any humans, kids or adults. We haven't lost any kids at Kelders yet.
Tim?
Is there a yearly maintenance fee for repainting and stuff like that after the initial fee to construct it?
They need to be repainted about every 5 years. Now, one thing that we are doing is that we're doing this kind of promotion package which is that, which is included in the first year when you get a Giant, you get the promotion that goes along with it. And the idea is to do a package of promotion that, due to it being a group, that it would cost less for people who are members of the Valley of the Giants than it would cost for them to do it separately. So we would do newspaper supplements 4 times a year. We would do a new map every year. We would do a website. We would do Facebook, Twitter, whatever social networking is popular of the day. It's Facebook right now, that kind of thing. And so after a year, there would be a monthly subscription, which, if it's a municipal Giant, we would look to a civic group that would be willing to pick that up for the town. But it's not a huge amount. It's less than $200 a month.
But the maintenance, repainted every 5 years, is that expensive?
No, it took me, I think it took me 3 days to paint the gnome when I painted it. So it's not that big a deal. I mean, this is, it's humble art. It's not hugely expensive. Yes.
Question, did I understand you say that you wouldn't use Century Cement?
It's too expensive.
So we're gonna have a monument of Century Cement miners, but not use their product?
Well,
It
if
will
we
have.
can get it donated.
I-
Raise more money.
Maria doesn't know this, but we've talked with them, and it would have Rosendale cement in it, but it wouldn't be totally made with Rosendale cement. Because right now, I don't know, did you get a figure on like what it was per pound?
Well,
or?
we wanted to try to use it, we're making replicas of the garden gnome. And we wanted to try to use it for replicas of the garden gnome, because we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could say it was made out of local cement? And we couldn't even use it for that, it was so expensive. I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was, but it was really pricey.
It's like, I would say like $100, $200 a bag,
I
something.
mean, we're looking at 25,000 for this thing. Where if we use Rosendale Cement, it would cost us 40,000?
Well,
Prob-
maybe,
probably.
maybe we should look at it, it's not a bad idea.
Well, I'm just looking at the fact that, it's like saying we're gonna put a monument up with George Washington, we're gonna use Bob Hope's face. I mean.
I take your
This
point.
is Century Cement, and this is what the town was built from.
Yeah.
And
It has to be-
Liberty and Brooklyn Bridge. and
Has to be
so-
made in Connecticut. And then you have to be able to get the rock.
But I think I think we should look
Yeah,
at it.
I
We
think
should
that- I take your
definitely
point.
find out, because I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think you should look more into it.
Yeah, we will.
Well, and that will all
We'll keep
actually
you
be
in
part of
mind.
the planning process when you're going through the planning process.
Exactly.
All those things we looked at, placement, cost, all those
Yeah.
things. Okay. How much more information do we need for our meeting next month to be able to say we want to do a resolution in support of the Greenway grant to do the planning process? Anybody feel like they need more information?
We'll have a draft of the grant by then, we
Okay,
can look at.
all right, so we'll
We
have
can get
that.
it to you.
But now,
Ahead of time.
will
So that,
the town board be able to get that and you submit it before the deadline?
yeah.
Okay,
Before your meeting,
Yeah.
you would like to have a copy of that?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and in
Sure.
fact, I
Did
can always
we-
yeah,
we
distribute it
pass
to
this
everybody
around?
before
Yeah,
the
they,
meeting.
they did.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, so we can get it to you ahead of time, that way,
Yep.
and we're, in the next week.
So when, let's see, so that would be, your next meeting would be in September.
September.
Seventh, I think? The
Seventh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but if we have that grant, application before that, I'll make sure all the town board members get a copy of it before that.
Thank you, that's great. Awesome.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
How-
Thank you so
can I-
much.
Can I just ask this also, how, involved does the Chamber of Commerce want to be in this?
The Chamber of Commerce will be involved in it. And financially, I don't know how much the chamber will be involved, but Pickle Fest will have a arm and a leg in it.
Okay,
I mean, I've already spoke to a few people who are willing to back part of this. And
very good.
you know, they'll be approached. We're hoping to make it a highly recognized of those who are donating toward it, with a brick or something with their name on it, that'll be in the path. And a good time to remember somebody maybe who in the family worked as a miner or worked at Century Cement. Yeah, those who donate will be recognized.
Mhm.
And I've avoided even starting that process with everything else that's going on, with the trestle, the movie theater, and so we've been sort of low-key on the financial part, but it'll happen.
I'd like to see the planning process get underway and see, you know, what next steps we need to do.
Yeah. And we have other plans too for fundraising, which
No,
would be
it's-
smaller models.
It's about improving the local economy, it's about bringing people in to spend money, it's about tourism, it's about, all those things are good things, so anything we can do to help promote
The
that.
proposed location would be on the byways, on the scenic byways. It would be in front of the cement mines, standing on the edge of the canal, in sight of the trestle, which will be the walkway over the rondo.
Speaking of byways, one of the things that Al said about this and why he was so intrigued by it is that he really loved the idea, but also the scenic byways really, you know, part of what's great about that is also about bringing people down off the ridge. And apparently there was this whole study that was done with all the Mohonk and Minnewaska and about how much the tourist dollars and how much the people that come there, you know, like some really solid information about that and the benefits. And they're also, they hit days where there's too many people. So if there are ways that the Rhonda Valley can link in, and Rosendale being a part of that, of bringing people down, you know.
Yeah, and you're right, that is
It's a great way to tap into tourists who are already here.
Yeah,
And
and that, you're right, that is one of the intentions of the work of the byway, is to spread people around.
right,
Yeah.
so this kind of
Yeah.
supports that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The scenic byway goes across St. Peter's Bridge, just
Yeah.
for those who don't
Yeah.
know.
it does. Yes, Jack?
I would recommend that you put it right in front of the kilns, right from Century Cement, right across from the trail. You have, right up on the,
Oh,
you got all the parking in the world, you've got the old kilns up there, where the actual cement was actually made, and you've got across the street, you have the rail trail.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have a talking log.
Okay, great, thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.